For Christmas when I was 3, my grandmother made me a child-sized doll that was my exact height. It had blonde hair, blue eyes, and it wore my clothes. I would spend long moments looking at it and asking, is that really me? Is that what I look like? I once colored the face with blue markers because I wanted to see if Pretend Me would say something. Instead, I got yelled at. The doll is no longer perfect, my mom said, and she's right. You can still see faded lines from where I drew. But I like him this way. He's perfectly imperfect. When a child is born, most parents are led to believe that their baby is going to be like every other baby. Rosy cheeks, a soft round head, a toothless mouth that giggles with laughter from their father's tickling, and rubbery, wrinkly hands that have felt every surface on their face, and sometimes their diaper. But I know that this is not always the case. I was born with a condition known as plagiocephaly, which causes a misshapening of the head. In my case, part of the back of my head was flattened and I had a bulge protruding from my forehead. Plagiocephaly is also the result of the head tilting to one side because of low muscle tone, which can result in problems with the child's posture, severe and permanent head deformities, and developmental delays if left untreated. My parents found out that I had plagiocephaly when I was around 4 months old. At first, they didn't know what to do since they had never heard of it before, but a specialist pointed them in the right direction. Most people will tell you in a very cliched manner that looks don't matter. It's what's on the inside that counts. However, in our society, we tend to alienate and bully anyone else who happens to look different than us. My parents could have left me the way I was. Studies show that most kids' heads will round out by the time they're 3 or 4. But my parents say they loved me and didn't want to take a chance waiting. The reason they did all those things for me is so that I wouldn't look different and be made fun of by other people or treated like I was an alien because of having a different head shape. Looks do matter to an extent. And this is why my parents made me go through with these interventions. Have you ever seen someone with an oddly shaped head? What about someone having a square-shaped thumb on one hand but rounder on the other? Smaller mouths? Larger ears? Bushy eyebrows? I have. Not to make fun of others, but to give myself comfort that I'm not alone with my differences. I used to have a bulge protruding from my forehead. The back of my head was flattened. People would say that I looked tired all the time. So if anyone makes fun of me, I just have to remember some of these images and know that there were others like me. To start, I needed physical therapy. My mom and dad were able to hire a physical therapist and I began rigorous training. As part of the therapy, I had to wear a special helmet that reshaped my head so that it would be normalized. As a matter of fact, I had to wear 2 helmets. Part of the helmet applied pressure to the bulge so that it would flatten out, and the part of my head that was flattened was loose in the helmet to fill in the gap. Now while this fixed my head size, it would sadly not fix my head tilt. For this, my physical therapist had me do head and neck exercises. At first, these were simple exercises such as rolling my head in circles on my shoulders to strengthen the neck muscles. Soon, these neck exercises became more and more rigorous, as my parents would first lie me down on my back, then grab my legs and roll me over until just my neck was touching the ground. Next, my parents rotated me in circles. My neck, being rolled around, was supposed to help stretch and strengthen the muscles, and as a result, I would stop leaning my head to one side. Now, my parents might seem insane because of how they had to stretch my neck, but the really crazy thing is that it worked. It would take several months, but I would no longer be tilting my giant noggin to one side. But just strengthening my neck muscles wasn't going to cut it. My parents also had to make sure that I would be able to walk normally, and not like I was just indoctrinated into the Ministry of Silly Walks. So my parents bought cardboard blocks in all sorts of shapes, and they lined them up like a tightrope. I was then instructed to walk that tightrope, and yes, I did fall. A lot, but my parents never gave up, and they were always there to bring me back to my feet. So with the help of the physical therapist, my mom and dad, and weeks of practice, I was walking. And then running without any obstacles. This was a huge moment for me so early in my life. Although I strolled past one barricade, there were always more hiding elsewhere. The biggest one, unrelated to plagiocephaly, involved my speech ability. My parents were not worried that I wasn't going to speak at all. In fact, they complained that I talk too much now. They were worried that my speaking would be delayed. Delayed speech is when a person takes longer to speak at certain developmental stages. Although the doctors believed my speech would be typical, they also noted it was a little delayed, so my mom and dad decided to play it safe and hire a speech therapist anyway because it may help to speed up the process. And you never know. My parents and the therapist made me repeat words at varying speeds.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? You chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could if a woodchuck could chuck a wood.
More weeks of mastering words and syllables, enunciating, articulating, and one day, at around the age of 3, the therapist said she couldn't recommend continuing because my speech was standard. I am not ashamed that I had to work extra to be like everyone else. In fact, I don't remember most of it. I have something special that is only special to me and few others. I get to be different and interesting compared to everyone else in the world. These interventions were important for my health, and they worked. Despite all these interventions, there is no possible way to achieve absolute perfection. I come pretty close though.
Are these times contagious? I've never been this bored before. Is this the prize I've waited